Hi, everyone, and welcome to the CryptoPotato podcast, where we talk to inspiring entrepreneurs who have ended their token sale and can share more insights about the whole campaign and their lessons learned from it. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with Xinshu Dong of Zilliqa, the next-gen high-throughput blockchain platform. So today we have the privilege of speaking with Xinshu Dong of Zilliqa, the next-gen high-throughput blockchain platform. Hi, Xinshu. It's so great to have you on our show.
Hello.
So could you just give us a brief explanation about Zilliqa?
Of course. Zilliqa is a new public blockchain platform. Its objective is really to support high-throughput and high-security decentralized applications. So what we do is we leverage, certain technologies such as sharding, such as multisig, and many others, so that we can sort of improve the throughput of the public blockchain almost linearly as much as the network grows. But then at the same time, also maintain very strong decentralization and security.
Okay, so that's there are various blockchain projects who are tackling this, but I feel that with yours, you're saying that as there are more nodes, then the blockchain or the performance will be more optimized and will be quicker. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so this is sort of this linear or almost linear scalability that we provide, which means when your system is new, when your network is new, when you don't have too many users or applications, you wouldn't require very high throughput. It's really when your network becomes more popular, so too many applications are trying to sort of compete for the resources supported by the network. That's the time you really need to scale up. You really need to provide higher throughput. So that's a very nice sort of property we provide with Zilliqa. Of course, the way we achieve this is through sharding, number one, and through some other techniques to make the performance much better. At the very high level, I think people understand sharding is about dividing and conquering, so you can achieve parallel processing. So that's the gist of our technology in providing such linear scalability.
I'm interested to know, in regards to we're making sure that we have infrastructure in order to process a lot of demand that will be for blockchain technology and for dApps and everything in the future. But I'm wondering, what do you believe will be like the tipping point in which there will be a mass adoption of dApps running on Zilliqa's blockchain? And do you have any thoughts? Did you think about, what would be like the killer app in which maybe you'll need to have another scalability upgrade? You know what I mean? Like that will really test out your performance.
I think in general, we are still at a very early stage. Bitcoin has been there for many years. Ethereum has been there for years. But it's really from, 1 or 2 years ago when people started to look at the blockchain platform more seriously to start brainstorming what are the unprecedented applications that can be built on the blockchain, not on other platforms before. So I think we are still very early in terms of, let's say, technology. We still have problems that need to be solved before the mainstream applications can be deployed on the blockchain. Scalability is one, security, privacy, interoperability, and how do you sort of integrate with other systems, with oracles, for example. So I think we need to wait for a little bit while and just need to be a little bit more patient to see how these technological breakthroughs will happen. And at the same time, I think businesses also need a little bit of learning curve to understand the blockchains are really not their threat, but the new opportunity.
I agree with that. On our podcast, we really focus on the token sale event itself in order to learn, from entrepreneurs like you who took on this campaign successfully and managed to build a very strong community and to have followers who are passionate about Zilliqa. So I'm going to ask you a few questions about the token sale for other entrepreneurs, investors, or supporters that want to learn more about what is important, to look at. So just in regards to your token sale, it ended recently, just on the beginning of January, and it actually ended before you reached the crowd sale because of the Ether price spike, resulting in you hitting your hard cap at $20 million. Could you share with us the strategy of how you planned your fundraising? And I see lots of teams like who contemplate whether to even conduct a crowd sale or to just close it as a private sale. And what were your considerations, and how did you overall, as much as you can share, structure your financing?
Yeah, that was a crazy process. Now you reminded me, it was just January. It sounds like, like 2 years ago. So this space is just having a great pace. I think, we really didn't design our sort of token sale in that way so that we wouldn't want sort of the public contribution. We from the beginning always wanted a great portion of our tokens to be sort of contributed by the general public. We, as a platform provider, we want our tokens to be in as many hands as possible. So that will help with the actual adoption of our platform once it goes to the mainnet stage. We just like, we somehow decided to use ETH as sort of the way to raise the money. And then ETH price went up very significantly. We were left with no choice but to sort of stick with the 20 million USD cap. We in the beginning, we wanted to have both parts because the sort of the more pre-sale people or early contributors, they can bring very good value to the general public as well, because they will do very careful due diligence. And so they are sort of endorsing the project. And on the other hand, they have great resources to connect us to other projects we may work with, to potential use cases, to potential miners, for example. So they are very helpful. But then, of course, it's a public project. Everyone should be given an opportunity to participate. That was also precisely the reason why eventually we raised our cap from 20 million to 22 million and used that 2 million to accommodate more people who were keen to contribute.
I think that's very insightful. In regards to like regulatory atmosphere, your token sale event excluded strategic countries like US, UK, Japan, and China. And I'm wondering, how did this affect your token sale campaign? Like, what is your take on the current regulatory climate in regards to token sales, and how would you like to see it evolve in the upcoming years?
I think we basically didn't have a choice. Given the legal opinion or legal advice we received, we had to exclude certain jurisdictions, which of course wasn't a very desirable thing to do. We always wanted to have total inclusion of different jurisdictions. But then, from the beginning, we knew that was the case. So we had no choice. We had to work around it. We have to spread the word more broadly in other jurisdictions. I think people sort of recognized the importance of the scalability problem and the unique angle that Zilliqa comes in to solve that problem. So eventually, we did not really have problem in raising that much money we would need to raise. And I think you understand it was quite oversubscribed. So it didn't really affect us much. But going forward, when the market cools down, such sort of jurisdiction constraints may impact at least some of the projects when they try to raise their money. I think this is going to be a trend. People are taking compliance or jurisdictions more and more seriously, which is a good thing. In the beginning, it wasn't of a concern at all. So when we had these exclusions, many people had many misunderstandings. But I think nowadays they understand it wasn't really our intention to exclude anyone. I think going forward, different regulators are thinking of ways to regulate of varying levels or varying grades. But I think some regulation may also help a little bit with the market, because we do see some projects who are not sort of who haven't thought through very carefully. For example, how are they going to deliver what they have promised? So if many of such projects cannot deliver after the ICO, it could be a problem for the market in general. But then if we have too much regulation, when ICO becomes essentially another version of IPO, that will also defeat the purpose, right? Because then innovation will meet with all these hurdles that they were meeting with earlier. So I think we need a really balanced approach. And I do understand this is a very challenging thing to do. It's more challenging than even, let's say, building a blockchain, because regulation is a very fine balance to play.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Um, in regards to your community, what was your strategy when you first set up to build your community? Because you have miners and developers and partners and everything. So how did you approach the community in regards to your go-to marketing, in regards to your social channels, just to spread the word of Zilliqa and make sure that the right people are attracted to your project?
I think this is largely a work in progress. For a public platform project like Zilliqa, besides the tech, community is everything. We need users to love Zilliqa so that they will use Zilliqa as a platform. And then if many people love Zilliqa and use Zilliqa, you attract miners. So I think we are sort of successful in a way that within a few months' time, we have already attracted a group of users who are very faithful to this project. So they understand the project has great potential, so they are very supportive under different marketing circumstances, let's say. On the other hand, we also need to be a little more proactive to get miners, because later this year we'll have our mainnet launched. So before then, we'll try to get people excited about running nodes for Zilliqa in our testnet. Of course, now with different constraints, we are not able to accommodate any people to join our network on the testnet, but then that's really something we're going to do in the next few months. And on the other hand, it's very critical for us to start getting more hands in helping building the platform as well. So we want to get community developers to contribute to our code base as well. We are still thinking of a concrete plan, how to get them engaged and how to incentivize them properly. But this is definitely something of our priority.
I think it shows. I've seen on your Telegram channel, which is very active, over 25,000 people in active
Right.
chat. And also, I really think that the community values the fact that, you just posted your upcoming events that you're going to participate in. And it feels that there's a right balance between, the conferences and big events with the small meetups of actually, speaking with your potential developers and supporters. Do you want to just tell us more about the upcoming events and where especially do you meet these developers or potential miners, which you can speak with and get them excited about your project?
Yeah, we are doing quite many of such specific Zilliqa meetups, because we feel like with a smaller meetup, we can get closer to our supporters and people who are potentially interested in Zilliqa. So in May, in the coming month, we are going to a few places. So we are going to Romania. That's very interesting because the team hasn't been there, but then we understand we have a group of very big supporters there from Romania. So they really like the project. We're going to go and meet them. And then we are also going to a conference in Sweden that was by invitation. And we are going to the Consensus, the Blockchain Week in New York. That's where almost everyone goes. We are doing our meetup there with Enigma. So that's another very interesting, strong technical team project. So let's see, what are the interesting things we can be talking about there. We are looking at scalability and security, and they are very strong in terms of data privacy. So all these are very important technical issues that need to be resolved. And then coming back to Singapore, we are doing a meetup on 23rd of May in Singapore. So we are going to also showcase some of our partnerships there. I think it's in line with your thought that after the ICO, projects still need to keep the community updated on the concrete progress. So we had a meetup very early in Singapore, but now it's really the time to feedback to them what has happened since then.
That's very impressive, Xinshu. Was Zilliqa's bounty program proven to be successful? And how did you measure its impact? This is actually a question from my own network. I asked, I'm going to interview Xinshu from Zilliqa, and that was part of the, the most interesting questions for my network, because it seems like, bounty programs, you really need to set the KPIs and see that you're not just, rewarding people for things that are not meaningful and impactful for your platform and for your product. So just a follow-up question, like how would you advise other token sales to structure their program, or what to look out when they're structuring their bounty program, from your experience, of course?
So, unfortunately, I have to confess that we are less calculative in the sense that we don't just focus on KPIs. Sometimes we even think, okay, it's fun to do it. The community will like it, so let's just do it. Like for the bounty program, some other projects were doing that. In the beginning, we were still thinking about it, and to a point that we thought we got concrete ideas on how to, better engage the community in terms of retweeting, in terms of writing articles about that, in terms of spreading the word out, to their friends. So we think, let's just do it. Actually, it was very costly. It was not costly in terms of, how many tokens we're putting. It was so costly in terms of the manpower you need to run it. So almost half of the team were doing here and there for that bounty program. And then more recently, we did this infographic contest. I also like it very much. Again, it's driving half of the team doing different things for it. But then I think the community was happy about that in general. So people got very creative in designing different infographics for Zilliqa. And we were really impressed by many of the submissions. I think my general comments or suggestions to other projects who are thinking about doing something like that is, you don't have to look at just KPIs, but you look at the impact, the potential impact it may bring to the community. For one thing, it sort of helps close the gap between the project team and the community, because people will become more interactive, people will get to know you much better. And on the other hand, it's like you will just be amazed on how much they know about Zilliqa. Because we may think Zilliqa is so technical, so difficult to understand, but then many people actually understand Zilliqa very well, and then they sort of express the ideas of Zilliqa in a very nice way. Yeah, that's just my comments.
I think from what you're saying, I'm learning that, it enables the team, the core team of Zilliqa, to just think out of the box, because you're actually engaging with the community. Your community is an extension or an expansion of your core team. And then, it's like, okay, go ahead, do whatever you want, be as creative as you like, go, and I don't think that, traditional companies have that kind of very close interaction with their community of, these are your most supporting audience, people who are contributing, with their brain power and with their creativity. And I think that's just gives you like the heartbeat of what's going on. And sometimes, we have like these conceptions of how our messaging or storytelling is, and then someone does like an explanatory video of your project, which is like a totally different angle than what you thought about. So that's I think that's an amazing contribution that ICOs in general have brought.
Exactly. It's not like a one-way thing. It's not we are very creative, so we created something interesting. It's more of our community. So the community members are really talented. So they are very creative in thinking about things that we couldn't think about.
So in regards to like the allocation, the token allocation, you guys allocated 15% to Ancon Capital, which developed the core technology behind Zilliqa's blockchain. And I think that's a very courageous and also very transparent move of you, right? There's someone else who created this or in partnership with you guys, and they need to be part of the stakeholders of this project. And I was wondering if you could share with us, like, what is the relationship between the two entities? And from your experience, like on how existing companies who already raised millions of traditional funding and now are looking, to decentralize their technology and to decentralize their funding methods, how should they approach compensating previous contributors or partners who enabled these companies to build their technology before they decided to pursue the token sale route?
So you can look at this Ancon Capital as an incubator to the Zilliqa project. Of course, that's exactly how the Zilliqa project started last year. So the token allocation is really a very sort of specific matter to our scenario in this case. Ancon contributed manpower. I was at Ancon, and several team members of Ancon also, just started on this project supported by Ancon. And then Ancon also contributed the IP of the scalable blockchain. In the initial planning, there was some discussion about having a patent around it, but then we decided we should just open it up so that everyone can be benefited on this technology. So that's some IP contribution. And then, of course, Antrain is still going to help with Zilliqa in terms of getting use cases or helping grew some of the use cases to become more mature that can be developed on top of Zilliqa. But again, I don't want to be too defensive here. This is really something that's so specific to the circumstance we have. And then for other projects, we really need to look at what exactly is a tangible and substantial contribution from this, you can call it an incubator or more incubating like company to the new project. Eventually, this is really a public project. Everything needs to be very transparent, needs to be discussed to the potential token contributors. So people have to be comfortable with that before they contribute.
Yeah, thank you so much for your very candid answer. And I think that the amazing news about it is that such a successful project was incubated, and the team actually stuck, and you got support from your from the incubator itself, and thus the project came to life. So that's I think a very inspiring model for other projects who would like to embark on being a successful company and building a successful company. In regards to your platform, you have two very distinct advantages over other widely accepted blockchains like Bitcoin or Ethereum, and it's the number of transactions per second that you could process on the one hand, and on the other hand, there's lots of critique about the footprint or the energy consumption that other platforms have in regards to mining, and you guys have like a smaller energy footprint per transaction. Due to your sharding, of course, in consensus mechanism. So are we on the verge of actually seeing dApps? And you've referenced to this beforehand, but when do you think exactly, the dApps the technology will become very, very adaptive to the needs of the mainstream, and then the mainstream will come? Or are we seeing this kind of everything has happened all at once? Because I'm seeing like other ICOs, which are all dApps, everything is being decentralized, and on the other hand, everything is being built infrastructure-wise. So how would you see like this, a real-world solution, are you going to become a real-world solution for alternative means of payments?
Yeah, I think this is really a very broad question, but I get your point. So I guess the question is really about, what do we envision on, let's say, potential use cases for Zilliqa or for the blockchain in general. I think we don't have a ready recipe for that. It's just unfortunate. But then that's also bringing lots of opportunities for any blockchain platform. I don't think we can solve all the problems at one shot just by Zilliqa, but we are doing some pioneering work. So for instance, we all understand getting corporate use cases on blockchain is super hard. But then we are very fortunate to have this partner, Mindshare. So we are doing something very corporate actually. So it's a very established market of digital advertising. And then Mindshare is going to bring some additional corporate partners to join this pilot project. Let's just try out Zilliqa. Let's see how Zilliqa, being much faster and being more secure, can become a viable platform for digital advertising. This is just one initiative we are working on. And I think we need just more of such things. It's a very challenging initiative, but there are many partners in this initiative are really committed. And on the other hand, we also need to be a bit more mindful that we can't completely rely on all these traditional corporations to start adopting blockchain. We have to be more creative. We have to be more proactive in terms of thinking about what are the new applications. So these applications may not exist today or may not exist widely today, but then they may become possible on the blockchain in terms of, let's say, financing, in terms of management. There are some ideas I heard of. Of course, we just need a little bit more time for people to ship their ideas and try to materialize them.
And in regards to, other blockchains, I mean, there's a wide variety of blockchains, each trying to kind of optimize or introduce an enhanced version of previous blockchains were actually, solving very crucial challenges that other blockchains have. How could one blockchain differentiate itself from another? I mean, should blockchain projects be more problem oriented or specific instead of generalized? Like, how do you kind of see Zilliqa in the landscape of other blockchains, and what was your actual, a focus on?
I think that's a brilliant question. So I think because the whole space is, as I said, in my opinion, still at an early stage. So people are trying to solve problems. So for instance, why did Zilliqa come into place in the first place is because we solved the problem with scalability and the problem with security. So that's why we think we can come up with a better platform. So that's what we're working on. And there are also other blockchains who are solving some other issues, let's say privacy, for example. Whether we will reach a stage where we have more mature platforms, then we can think about sort of consolidation, right? Do we need to have more and more platforms solving specific problems, or we should have some consolidated platforms where most of the problems have already been solved there? So that's the real question for the next, I don't know, 2 years, for example. But at this stage, I think we're still earlier than that. We haven't satisfactorily solved all these issues. We still need to try and error. We still need to do more experiments. So what Zilliqa tries to spearhead on is this problem of TBS with high decentralization. And I think we are making progress, but we still have way to go. We haven't launched our mainnet. We haven't got the first, let's say, 5 interesting dApps on Zilliqa. So that's something we'll have to focus on for the next few months. And then beyond that, maybe it's really time for Zilliqa and for other blockchains to think about, what's beyond this sort of problem-solving techniques and what's next after that.
I have 2 thoughts while you're speaking. Obviously, again, very inspiring me. The first is that we're in the end of April now, recording this podcast, and you guys just ended your token sale in January. And there's, as you said, it seems as if there's like 2 years, and it's only a couple of months. So I think that the pace in which partnerships, announcements, milestones are hit. That's just amazing in our space. And the other thing that is amazing is when you talk about collaboration and maybe consolidating technologies. I think that for the first time in our space, it could happen when the opportunity presents itself, because all the entrepreneurs are passionate about decentralization, are passionate about the technology, are passionate about working together. So it's part of the values that we bring to the blockchain, that it's not the, being greedy and being very centralized and wanting you to compete over other people, but just to expand and to partner. I think that's beautiful, and that's in line with your inspiring words. So I really appreciate it. Thank you for that. Just 2 more final questions. I'm interested to know, what are your upcoming milestones for Zilliqa, both product and business wise, because I know that lots of entrepreneurs or projects that are going toward a token sale, the work starts after the token sale, after you have actually had your financing secured. And I'm wondering, how does this look in Zilliqa post ICO?
Yeah, we are maybe slightly different in that sense, because we already had a prototype before our sort of token sale. But then after token sale, really the work has ramped up. We started to hire more people. It's super challenging, but I think we are making some progress in terms of hiring. We released our source code in January. We released our testnet at the end of March. We're still improving the testnet, especially in terms of stability. So I think that will still take some time to make the system more and more stable. And I think we'll try to demonstrate the capability of our new smart contract language, Zilla, in May, end of May. And people can expect something about smart contract release by the end of the second quarter. So that's really the next biggest milestone. And of course, our target is to have the system integrated between the backbone blockchain protocol and the smart contract layer in Q3. And that's where we will see, can we do more experiments? Can we see the system is really stable to let it launch as a mainnet? Because The moment you launch it as a mainnet, you can't change anything because it's a blockchain. It's immutable. It's irreversible, right?
Just in regards to, you were mentioning, you know, the hiring, right? You need to hire lots of people, and it's also, there's like a learning curve. Not everyone is familiar exactly with you know, a programming language, obviously a smart contract Zilla language. So is there a challenge in actually recruiting people, or do you have like so many followers and supporters in your community that you're actually recruiting from within your community? How does this challenge look like?
I think this is one of the biggest challenges for any blockchain projects. If you ask any project around, you know, whether they are in Singapore, in China, in US, or in any other country in the world, they will say this is a challenge. They will say their place is the most difficult place to hire people. You know, so I think we are really in a shortage of blockchain talents. But on the other hand, I do not think the learning curve is super stiff. I think, according to our experience, because, you know, we have a good team, and then we hire highly talented people, highly self-motivated people, so they can you know, learn from other team members during the daily work. I think they will pick up very quickly. So that is really not a concern. It's more about, you know, your fundamentals. Do we have very strong fundamentals in computer science, in computer networks, and whether you are willing to learn.
Okay. And just our final question, what is your vision, you know, in regards to Zilliqa specifically, just outlining everything and wrapping up everything you said, and for the crypto blockchain industry in general, like in 5 years from now, in which world will we be living in?
For Zilliqa, we're really trying to provide a more viable and a more reliable platform for people to run their D apps. It's really not our intention to create, you know, the coolest app in the world. But then, because we're a new platform, we provide something that was not available before. We are also thinking very hard, along with our partners. So what are the coolest apps we can build? So that's more of a short-term goal. But then slightly longer term, yes, as I said, we want to provide, you know, the most viable and most secure platform. For the blockchain or cryptocurrency world in general, I think I'm still very optimistic. Although we are still waiting for the next killer application, but I think that will come. It's just a matter of time, and I don't think it will come as one application. It will come with, you know, several very interesting use cases. So one potential breakthrough we are already seeing is in terms of gaming. Because if you think about games, that's already, you know, somewhere between the exactly physical world and the virtual world. So that's maybe a very interesting use case for blockchain as the first class of applications that can be immediately adopted. So, you know, we are also looking at that, seeing how Zilliqa as a fast blockchain platform can better support decentralized games.
Interesting. So thank you so much. I really feel that, you know, your insights are very fruitful for me, and also very inspiring, as I said throughout the interview. It was a pleasure to have you on our show, and thank you so much, and best of luck for you and for Zilliqa.
It's my pleasure as well. Thank you.